What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Powered by Primus, and in today's video we are going to be showing off how to play the Unicron raid as well as unlocking this bad boy for you. You're going to get a link down in the description box below, which is going to give you the drop box that has access to all of the information when it comes to all of the cards, the characters, and then also a rules and FAQ form that you guys can sit there and read to help if you guys prefer reading versus watching this video. However, watching this video is going to be very easy for you to be able to figure out what's going on. And then we also did do a live stream, which I will link in the description box as well, so you guys can watch a couple of games so you guys can see how the games specifically play out. If you watch this video, you go watch that video, then you will have everything you need to start sitting down with your friends to start playing this amazing new format that is going to be a raid, which is very different than anything that you have played with the Transformers TCG before. Now, before we get into anything, I do want to remind everybody that this is completely unofficial. This is nothing brought to you guys from Wizards of the Coast or from Hasbro. This is a fan-made project, which did allow us to put all this stuff together. And before we really get into anything, and you guys are probably really curious as to how all of our stuff looks so beautiful, and I can see how you guys think that it is official, I want to give a huge shout out to Mike King every single time that I talk about our new stuff, whether it's ARC-related things, or it is going to be Unicron-related stuff, or future projects that I won't talk about. It is all going to be a huge thanks to him because of how he was able to give us these files to be able to create a lot of these cards, to do this stuff. He is a part of the ARC. He is absolutely amazing. So again, a huge shout out to him, and then a huge shout out to the ARC members. Everyone knows who they are. However, there's going to be Wreck and Rule, Blues on Attack, Matifer, Mike King, Carl Enders, and Wes, as well as a few other members from Team Primus who are all been really helping with playtesting a lot of this stuff to make sure that you guys have an absolute blast when it comes to playing this stuff. A lot of people I know are really curious about power levels and all that other stuff. You guys are honestly going to have to just start playing with stuff and see for yourselves on how everything plays out. I definitely recommend that you guys obviously try it because it is really amazing, and you're going to have this really cool thing called fun happen when you're in the process of playing, and that is what we really want to deliver for you guys when it comes to this Unicron raid. Now we're going to start talking about the initial setup, and what this is going to be is a 1 versus 2 player format. So the Unicron player is going to be one player by themselves. They're going to have their own deck, their own character cards, all that good stuff. And then they're going to be going up against 2 separate opponents, which are going to be playing on a team. Now when it comes to talking about those players, is that those players still act as individual players. However, they do work together, obviously, to take down all of the bots and then eventually get to Unicron in Phase 3 and then take down Unicron, or just get completely consumed by the Chaos Bringer and lose. So it's really fun stuff. So when it comes to talking about players being their own separates, I can't, if I was another player, play a grenade launcher onto one of my other players' characters. I can still only target my own characters with cards. However, the only difference is going to be if you have a character with Brave. If a character does have Brave on one of the player sides of the table, the Unicron player must always attack that character if able, just like Brave states, which is really fun, and obviously makes Brave a really cool mechanic to be able to bring to the table and try out. Now, I would tell you when it comes down to talking about this stuff, there is going to be a predetermined deck that you can and should use for Unicron for at least your first few matches for everybody to get used to the type of style. And then if you and your friends want to up the Unicron deck as far as power level goes, there are a lot of things that you can do. So I will talk about all that here in just a second. Now, the way that it's always going to work out is that the Unicron player is going to start off with a predetermined deck. I am going to have that in the paper form that is going to be brought to you guys with that Dropbox file. However, I will kind of lay it all out for you guys here so you guys can kind of see the layout for all of the cards that are going to come in the pre-built deck if you guys do follow this. This is a really balanced deck as far as battle icons go to make sure that you're great for offense, you're good for defense, because obviously the Unicron player is going up against 2 separate people, so we want to make sure that we obviously have a really good balance so all of these games play very well. The other cards that are going to be coming out are going to be Phase 1 specific, unique Unicron battle cards that were created for the Unicron raid. I'm going to have those go across the screen now so you guys can see these cards. Now, everything that you guys are going to see for those cards is also going to come in 3 types. I guess you're going to run 3 of them. So 1 battle card, you're going to run 3 of them, and that is going to make your starting deck for the Unicron player 32 cards. Now, you're probably like, this is really strange to me. Why 32 cards? Well, 32 cards is built into the raid for a very specific reason. So even if you are building a different version of the Unicron deck, I highly recommend that you keep it at the 32 battle cards. It makes it really easy for you to go back and forth on a lot of the battle cards to make phase 1 run really smooth for the Unicron player. And then once we get to other phases, we're going to be adding new cards, and by the time you get to Unicron, you are going to have a 50 battle card deck, which is really exciting how we are constantly adding things to make each phase feel very different and again bring you guys a lot of fun. Now that you guys have how the Unicron deck should be built, again, I'm going to have the list in that Dropbox file, so if you guys need it, you guys can also screenshot, go back a little bit and see how that goes. Phase 1 is going to begin with a very specific setup. You are going to have Unicron in alt mode, so I'm going to put him on the screen for you guys. And then you guys are also going to start with Scourge and 2 sweeps. So this will be your starting team across the table. Now, I did print out a Unicron just so you guys can see. This guy can be printed pretty much at crazy sizes. You guys can go with a basic Titan size, which is the character format that is going to be in the Dropbox. So if you do want to get him sleeved up in one of your Trypticon, Fort Max, or Metroplex top loaders, you guys can totally do that. However, if you want to even print him to bigger sizes to obviously make him feel really cool, you guys can totally do that as well. There is also a very unique thing for him, and he is going to have a gold border for Titans. There's absolutely nobody who else should even have that gold border, so it's something very unique to Unicron, which is super awesome. Obviously, you want him to feel very different than any others. But again, he is going to start in planet mode. I didn't print one of those out, so you guys are going to see it on screen. And there is a very specific thing that is going to happen with Unicron at the start of every single turn. Now, when it comes to talking about phases and the beginning of the game, you do not have to figure out how or who goes first. The Unicron player will always begin the game and start each phase going first. No ifs, ands, or buts. It is always the Unicron player going first. Obviously built in for many different reasons we don't need to get into. They always get to go first. Now, at the start of each turn, obviously you will shuffle your deck and you will do all things just like normal. Each player will shuffle. You'll decide how to cut if you guys want to do cuts, all that good jazz. However, you will start off with your starting hand just like normal. So we'll go ahead. I'll draw my 3. And at the start of the turn, you get to add 2 chaos counters to Unicron. So this is a constant number that is always going to be going up with your big man. This is going to really show that looming threat of these continuously going up. There are many battle cards which you guys did see on the screen a second ago, and you guys will also see in the Dropbox that will allow you to manipulate this number, because obviously as the Unicron player, you want to try to get to 20 as fast as possible, or at least before you get to phase 3. If at any point at the start of a Unicron player's turn they do reach 20 chaos counters, they immediately win the game. Again, no ifs, ands, or buts. You get completely swallowed by the planet, which is super fun. Again, always giving that time clock to your opponents. The other players are always constantly trying to manage the chaos counters and also trying to move through the phases to get to the next phase. So again, at the start of every single turn, we get to put 2 chaos counters onto our Unicron and draw an additional card. So your starting hand will always be 5 cards. You start with initial 3, you draw 1 on your first turn, and then Unicron makes you draw an additional card. So really fun stuff. Unicron can always be attacked. Now this is a very interesting concept unless an opponent does, or another character does have Brave. You guys will notice that one sweep and the second sweep will both have Brave. They are going to be the same character. And then our Scourge is going to have Brave while in this mode as well. So as long as one of these characters is in these modes, or we are just possibly in that mode, then you can definitely go into Unicron. You can also deal direct damage to Unicron just the same. Now talking about this with Unicron, Unicron is a character that cannot attack until phase 3 and can also not transform until phase 3. He will always remain in alt mode and pretty much just be there looming, bringing this destruction, the card advantage, and all that fantastic stuff in the process of the first 2 waves. Now we do have our first sweeps here, who does have Brave, and they both have Revenge. When they are KO'd, you get to put another chaos counter onto your Unicron. So obviously if 1 or 2 goes down, you just get to tick this thing up for each character. Now Scourge, well, in this mode, I guess we'll start here, does have Brave, and then it says when this defends and you flip at least 3 different color battle icons, you may redirect the attack to another character. So if I happen to be tapped here and I happen to have my sweeps out and you go to attack my Scourge, or another player goes to attack my Scourge, I flip 3 different battle icons, I can send it over to a sweep rather than dealing that damage to the Scourge, which is a really fun mechanic. And then when we flip over to this mode, we get to return a sweeps from our KO to the battlefield tapped and fully repaired. So then your opponents now have to go through this character yet again, and you can have some absolutely fantastic plays with UFO because our Scourge is a spaceship. Now, another thing you're going to find across all of our characters is that they are going to have the specific trait Unicronian. It's because they are obviously Unicron's minions, and there is a lot of battle cards that you're going to be able to use, which do get to use, obviously, with Unicronians. Now, the really cool part behind us also doing this trait is the fact that you cannot now play these battle cards outside of the raid. A lot of these cards are powerful, but they are powerful because they are designed to be put into the raid. I don't suggest that you play them outside of the raid. And again, a lot of the cards do say put on Unicronians only, so you also can't really play them outside of the raid. Now, if your question is about can you play any of the characters outside of the raid, the answer is going to be yes and no. All of the characters that are playable outside of the raid are going to be Scourge, Cyclonus, and Galvatron. These are the only characters that I would tell you that are playable outside of the raid. The sweeps are obviously useless. They also do not have another mode. They only have their bot mode and do not have a star count, so you cannot play them outside of the raid. However, if you are curious about playing sweeps outside of the raid, then you will have something really cool with our Wave 1 arc that is going to come out. So these characters are all playable outside of the raid. Again, obviously their star counts are going to be here, so make sure that you do obviously follow all star regulations and all that good jazz. Scourge is going to be really useless in this mode for you. However, if you're ever trying to go for like an upgraded Wave 1 Skywarp ability, then you can go something cool with this Scourge, but I probably would never play this Scourge. However, our Cyclonus and our Galvatron are absolutely amazing. Now, getting back to our Phase 1, as far as players go, how do I get out of Phase 1, Jamie? How do I move on from Phase 1? Well, as the other players go, you have to have all 3 of these bots KO'd, and then all characters must be tapped. So it can be a little confusing, but let's say I have all these characters left. Let's say my opponent is awkwardly running these kind of characters. They get to, let's say, attack with their Cyclonus, which then finishes this sweep. They still get their Galvatron attack to go in here. Obviously going to be sending that over here to our big man Unicron, getting in some additional damage, taking off from his chaos counters, and then they get to move over into Phase 2. Now, before we move into Phase 2, I want to talk about how the turn sequences go. Again, we talked about how the Unicron player will always go first at the beginning of every single phase, and also starts the game going first. Well, after the Unicron player gets to go, so let's say we're in this situation here. Boom, I'm going to start my first turn. I'm going to transform my Scourge, and I'm going to attack with a sweeps. It'll go to now my opponents. Now, the really cool thing that we wanted to add to make sure that this felt even more like a multiplayer thing is that those opponents now get to chat amongst themselves and figure out who wants to go first during this round. Now, obviously, we want those players to always be talking about how to take down Unicron. We want this to be very, very vocal. We want you guys really making sure that you're working together to try to take down Big Man, because you guys are going to have to use teamwork to make this work. So let's say player A decides that they want to go first. They will take their turn just like normal at the beginning of the game. All sequences are the same. The Unicron player can't play any cards. The other 2 players will be able to play 1 battle card or 1 action. One action or 1 upgrade, 1 transform, and 1 attack. And then the other player who opted to go second will then take their turn, do all of the same stuff, and then it'll come back to the Unicron player, and then now I can play an action and an upgrade, and turns go back to full sequencing again, following exactly how the game works. And then I would do with another attack, whatever else the case may be, and continue gameplay through there. Again, until all 3 of these characters are KO'd and all characters become tapped. Now, if you do attack Unicron, he does have a built-in prevention for taking way too much damage. So if you're worried about your Unicron, believe me, you shouldn't be. Unicron says on his card that if this would take 2 or more damage, instead you get to remove 1 chaos counter instead. So let's say I'm sitting at 4 chaos counters. My opponent attacks Unicron for 17 damage. Well, we just go down to 3 chaos counters and ignore the rest of that damage. Makes sense, you're attacking a planet. Believe me, it doesn't do anything in the long term. However, if Unicron just takes exactly 1 damage, his chaos counters stay the same, and he actually takes 1 point of damage to his health, and you continue gameplay just like normal. Now, getting into phase 2, after again all characters on the Unicron player's team except for Unicron in alt mode is KO'd, all characters are tapped. When you go to untap, you immediately will be starting our phase 2. You get to bring in, as the Unicron player, Cyclonus and Galvatron coming into play untapped. You will also then take any battle cards that are going to be in that file that do say phase 2 in the bottom left of the cards. There's going to be 3 of each copy. You're going to have 3 of the, I can't like put these cards together in any way, shape, or form. There we go. You're going to have 3 Menacing Gazes, you are going to have 3 Energon Harvests, and you're going to have 3 Insignificance. Now, the really cool part about these cards is that you are going to immediately take them in no matter what situation your deck is in, obviously without looking at it. Let's say I only had these cards left in my deck when we started phase 2. I will take in these Unicron cards, and I will immediately just shuffle them into my deck. Rather than having to stop, sideboard, do all that good jazz, these cards just immediately get shuffled in, and then you get to start your turn and draw 2 new cards because Unicron says so, just like always. Hoping you get to see some new cards, especially if you're lower in your deck. You should always see new stuff, which is a really, really cool thing. These cards, again, really, really powerful, and you're going to start your phase 2 that way. Now, sequencing goes exactly the same as it has before. The Unicron player will get to go first. I will do one, or I'll play my actions, my upgrades, transforms, do whatever, get my attacks in there, and again, the opponent gets to go all the way through the sequencing. Once all of the other bots are KO'd and Unicron, all the characters are tapped, you will then go into phase 3. Now, this is also assuming that the Unicron player has not hit 20 chaos counters. If they hit 20 chaos counters, again, the Unicron player instantly wins, so you really need to make sure that you are managing this number as well as trying to move through the phases if you are the other players. Now, if I'm the Unicron player and I'm at 18, I go to take my turn, I start my turn, I add my 2 counters. Do I immediately win the game? And the answer is no. My opponents will always have a chance to be able to knock this down. However, if at the start of my turn, I am immediately at 20 before adding any counters, then I do win the game. This does allow the other opponents to have a chance to be able to knock it down. I can't play any like weird sequencing on my turn to get a bunch of chaos counters and then just instantly win. Does not work like that. Your opponents will always have a chance, so don't worry if you're the Unicron player does hit 20 on their turn. You just have to make sure on your turn you figure out a way to knock it back down on counters, or you are definitely going to lose the game. Now, getting into phase 3, let's say we were at 17 chaos counters, we get to transform our Unicron into Big Bad Bot mode. Now, this means I have these counters, and I will obviously lose all effects that do allow me to gain any more chaos counters at the start of my turn. However, now we get to spend these chaos counters to do one of multiple effects. Now, what we're going to do first is we're going to obviously untap all bots that are going to be out, and there's going to be 2 things that are going to have to happen at the start of phase 3. The first thing is there is going to be a stratagem that your opponents are going to get. It is Light Hour, Darkest Hour. Of course, has to be their Rodimus holding the Matrix of Leadership. And then it does say characters other than Unicron, Chaosbringer, have +1 attack, +1 defense, and Pierce 1. This will go onto the other player side of the table, and it will be active again for all characters other than Unicron. So anybody going into Unicron is obviously going to be getting some sweet bonuses, and obviously defending against Unicron, getting some sweet bonuses as well. Same goes, there's going to be phase 3 cards that are going to be very specific for our Unicron. Again, you will find the phase number in the bottom left of the battle card, and again, we are going to shuffle these cards into our deck. So if we're at a low number again, it'd be really nice to be able to shuffle these in there and to possibly see some of these new cards when it comes to our turn. And again, you just shuffle them and have your opponents cut like normal and then continue like normal. Look at that. Wow, we got really good. So that's really awesome. And then, yes, again, your opponent's going to get those. You're going to get all your battle cards. And with Unicron, you're going to have a new thing. You're going to have 6 attack, 1 defense, and 35 health, assuming he hasn't taken any damage from earlier in the game. Obviously, if he has, all of that damage is going to carry over when he transforms. Nothing is going to change as far as that goes. Unicron does have 3 tags, Unicronian, melee, and range, so if you do upgrade your deck or change things around, you are going to have access to all of those things. Now, Unicron is going to have this ability. You can only do this ability on him once per turn before you attack. Once you attack, it's just like anything else in this game. You are no longer allowed to play actions, upgrades, any of those other things. So you can spend any number of them to perform any of the following effects. Again, if I want to, like, let's say maybe play a card that deals a damage, or I want to do something else and then possibly draw 2, you can totally do that. Again, however you want. First ability is going to be -1 chaos counter to do 1 damage to any enemy. If you want to do -2 counters, you get to draw 2, plan 1. Pretty simple stuff. -3, you get to repair 3 from Unicron. And then if you want to return a card from your scrap pile to your hand, you -5. And then if you want to KO a bot, then you have to pay the number of stars that that bot has +2. So let's say we're blowing up a character that has 10 stars, then you would have to get rid of 12 of your chaos counters to be able to do so. Because again, obviously 10 + 2 is going to be 12. I can't find 5 on here. And that would take you down to 5 chaos counters. Now, it doesn't matter how much health any character has. If you have enough to spend to blow up a character, then you totally can do that. Again, if you guys go back and watch the live stream, I completely erased a Battlefield Legend by getting rid of 15 counters, and I never even had to bother attacking the character. He completely just got crushed. And then combat will continue just like normal. I will start my turn going first because I am the Unicron player, get to play cards just like normal, and I get to attack any character that I wish unless a character has Brave, get to attack into that character, and then my opponent will all get to go. With their sequencing, again, one player will get to draw, get to attack with all their stuff. The other opponents will get to draw and attack with all their stuff. We get to untap, and we get to repeat the process. And we get to continue that until either Unicron wins or Unicron is KO'd, and then the opponents are going to win. Again, pretty simple stuff. It's just going to take a little bit for you to get used to the sequencing. Make sure you guys set up your cards very specifically. What I tend to do when it comes to setting up is I put all of my phase cards into a different pile so I don't mess them up as far as where they're supposed to go. So I would keep all my phase 2 cards in a separate pile, and I would put them next to me so I don't accidentally shuffle them into my deck until phase 2, and then we'll shuffle them in, do all that good stuff, and then obviously at the end of the match you want to go back through and you want to separate all those cards before starting another raid, and then obviously you guys can switch up players and do all of that really cool stuff. Now, a couple of questions that you guys are probably going to ask is what happens if a player is tapped down and gets a turn? Well, it's just like any other time that a player would be tapped down and get a turn. You still get to draw your card. You can still play an action or an upgrade, action and upgrade, and then you can still do a transform, and you can still play your cards again like normal. However, you cannot attack, obviously, because you are tapped down. So you don't lose a sequencing because of that. You still get to take your turn, and all of that is really, really cool. So we don't want a player to have to sit there and just get beaten up on for a few turns because they are completely tapped down. Again, if you guys go back and watch our live stream, you'll see what happens if you play like Fort Max, and it'll be, yeah, you guys will figure it out. So if you guys want to ask any questions, there's going to be multiple places that you guys can ask me where I will always answer them as quick as possible. First place is going to be in the comment section of this video via YouTube. And also, if it's anything from the Facebook page as well, minusing it doesn't get absolutely crazy in there. I really hope that you guys look through a lot of these videos to try to answer these questions before just immediately asking them. I know it is harder to look for them than to happen to just see them written somewhere. I did try to answer a lot of those questions that I was getting previously from playtesting and all that in the rules document that is located in the Dropbox. So please check that first. If you guys cannot find it, then you guys are more than welcome to go down to the comment section and ask me that way. And then we also do have a Discord channel. I will have a link to that below as well. You guys can always feel free to jump in there, and you guys can ask me any questions that you guys do have via that. But I really hope that you guys do enjoy this raid format. Please, please contact me to let me know what you guys think. I'm really, really curious on how you guys feel about this new game mode, about all of this stuff, because we have put an insane insane amount of time into it. It has been super, super fun to put all this stuff together. We've been having a blast playing it, and I really hope that you guys have a lot of fun playing it as well. We definitely want to do more in the future, so obviously the more you guys like this stuff, the more you guys let us know that you guys like it, the way more we're going to be inspired to keep pushing and doing more for this game for all of you guys. I know it's one thing that we really care about here. Whether it's the Team Primus crew, myself, or it's going to be the ARC, we really, really want to keep this community going, and we really love doing this kind of stuff for you guys. So obviously your guys' appreciation and any feedback you guys can give us, we absolutely love. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys go download that Dropbox. You guys get this stuff printed, and you guys start playing some games.